All right, so it's 11:03. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Jamie Lewis. I work for the city of Adelanto, actually contracted cannabis consultant, and I have seen a lot of these names before. So we've likely spoken either via email or over the telephone over the last couple of years. So it's great to see some familiar names here. Mr. Kirk Shagoyan, and forgive me if I butcher your last name, I do it all the time, has volunteered to put together this webinar for accountants, CPAs, general compliance officers that are here operating in the city, just as an educational event, and really just to help people stay informed on what's required in the world of cannabis in terms of accounting. He is a super experienced CPA who I've learned quite a bit from, and I think you will too today. So I really want to just thank him for being here and encourage you all to keep in touch with him if you have any questions. Let's see, we have one more person coming in. Take a minute, let them in the room. There we go. So just a quick housekeeping. If you could please keep your phone or your computer on mute while we're going through the slides. There will be some time at the end for question and answers. And I also encourage you to type your questions in the chat box so that you don't forget them. And I will read through them at the end of the webinar so that Kirk can respond to them and kind of interact a bit if you have any follow-up questions. Once again, this meeting was set up to discuss cannabis accounting, as we get tons of questions regarding this topic, and we really appreciate you, Kirk, for being here. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, perfect. Thank you, Jamie, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our cannabis accounting webinar. My name is Kirk from 420 Accounting Services, and I will be the host of today's presentation. But before we start, once again, I would like to thank Jamie Lewis from Adelanto City, who provided us this unique opportunity. Our today's agenda will include a quick introduction of 420 Accounting Services, after which we will discuss cannabis banking and cash issues, cannabis payroll, cost accounting, cannabis taxes, segregation of duties, and the vital role of accounting and compliance. Please note that all the information contained in this presentation is meant for guidance purposes only and not as professional legal or tax advice. Further, it does not give any personalized legal, tax, investment, or any business advice in general. So, who is 420 Accounting? We are a California-based firm specializing in accounting for cannabis businesses and dedicated to serving the cannabis need. We offer specialized accounting, outsourced CFO, and tax solutions to already established businesses or to those planning to break into this flourishing industry. Kirk Shagoyan, myself, I'm a CPA and a CMA. I'm the founder of 420 Accounting Services, and I have a blend accounting experience and cannabis-specific expertise, and I've been serving a variety of industries since 2012. Now, let's check our first poll of the day. Which of the below practices your company is currently performing? So for you guys to be able to answer this poll question, for anyone who joined us using a PC desktop, they can just use their phones, scan the barcode, and this question will pop up and you guys just can answer. Or whoever is using their cell phones and joined us for this Zoom call, they can open another page and go to slido.com and use that 327495 code. And again, the question will pop up and you guys can answer that question. So I will just give a minute or two until everyone sends their answers through and we will go over this question.
Thanks, Kirk. I love that you're utilizing this technology. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute at this time and just ask them. It's really useful for us if you do answer these polls because it helps us to tailor future webinars that we'll have. down the line. For example, if a lot of you want to know about cash reconciliation or bank reconciliations or just everything, feel free to answer accordingly. That way we can provide the necessary resources for the future. I see some answers coming in, super cool. I'm gonna go ahead and answer as well. Thank you, Kirk.
Of course. Yeah, I gotta wait 30 more seconds. I see 7 people already, 15 answered. So let's give it more time.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
No problem, Hazelina. I'm so glad you're able to join us this morning. We're just doing the first poll now. So if you have a cell phone, you just scan that little code for, or I don't know what those are called. QRS code.
QR code.
Yeah, QR code. Scan that and it'll send you to a website where you'll answer the poll. If you joined by phone, you just go to slido.com and type in number 327495 in order to respond.
327495, 327495. Okay, let me figure it out.
Okay, do your best. If you're unable to answer, no problem. But
Yeah,
we
Okay.
appreciate you.
That's fine. We will have other poll questions. So, so right now I see only 7 people, but it's still promising. Like more than half of who answered are already doing bank reconciliations and cash reconciliations, which are like one of the 2 most important tasks that you need to have in your accounting. So
Okay.
this poll question is going to lead us to our first major topic, which is cannabis banking and cash issues.
Yeah.
Everyone in this webinar and every operator in this industry is well aware that cannabis businesses face difficulties gaining access to traditional banking services, largely due to the fact that marijuana is still considered illegal on the federal level under the Controlled Substances Act. However, should the Safe Banking Act of 2021 pass, cannabis will have ready access to crucial banking and financial services, thereby reducing their need to be a cash-only business. Unfortunately, we are yet to receive any positive update on the Safe Banking Act because there are those who continue to oppose its passage. Now, when it comes to it is not only about having a bank account. It is like also staying compliant and having your bank records match your accounting records. This process is called reconciliation. Now, why bank reconciliations matter? First, to see your business as it really is. Like you could end up spending money you don't really have or holding on to the money you could be investing in your business. Second, to detect fraud. Honestly, this fraud, but it would at least let you know when it has happened. Third, to detect bank errors. I know it is rare, but sometimes the bank can make a mistake. And fourth, to stay on top of accounts receivable. If you are consistently seeing a discrepancy in accounts receivable between your balance sheet and your bank, you know you have a deeper issue to fix, or at least an employee to replace. Because limited access to banking institutions has made cannabis operators be a cash-only business, carry large sums of cash, it is important to apply the principle of reconciliation to cash balances as well. Now, regular cash reconciliations alert you on fraudulent activities by indicating if any money is missing from your cash register or your vault. It will notify accounting errors and keep accounting records current and complete. It will improve forecasting and help you make informed business decisions. And finally, it will enhance control to create accurate and frequent forecasts, plan for the future, and even much more. Now, keep in mind to follow best practices and have weekly, monthly cash logs and cash counts, and all your Form 8300, IRS Form 8300 file for cash payments received of more than $10,000. So what is IRS Form 8300? If you are a business and you are receiving $10,000 in cash, you must file Form 8300. Any person, which includes an individual, company, corporation, partnership, association, etc., they need to file Form 8300. And you have 15 days after the date the cash transaction has occurred to file this form. After filing this form, there is another written statement that you need to provide to each party that you collected cash money from by January 31 of the year following the reportable transaction. This is the same due date when you guys send out your 1099s to your contractors and your W-2s to your employees. Now, keep in mind that civil and criminal penalties may apply if you fail to file Form 8300 and provide the statement to the licensee that you collected the cash from. Those penalty amounts are going to be adjusted annually for inflation, and you can visit IRS website to check and get more familiar with all the penalties. Reconciliations do not stop here. You should also reconcile your credit card statements, which is how you verify that the transactions on both sides are complete, correct, and valid. And this is how you're going to ensure the integrity of your records. You should also reconcile your POS, especially the dispensaries. There are POS reconciliations can be done anytime. It's your call, but more frequent audits ensure any disparities are identified and fixed right away. Finally, you should reconcile your inventory also. This is a very important process as it helps you reduce stock discrepancies and understand why there are discrepancies in the first place. Now to our second poll. Is your company withholding payroll taxes from its employees and is current in its payroll tax filings? Once again, please, whoever has joined us using a desktop PC, they can just scan the barcode or the QR code using their phones and answer the question. I will give it another 30 seconds to 1 minute. If anyone is having difficulty answering the poll question, please just send us a message in the chat box, because we want to make sure everyone is answering, and this will give us like a more clearer idea of how everyone is performing currently. I still see only 6 people, so I'm gonna give it more time.
Perfect. Thanks, Kirk. And just something that comes to mind here, I want you guys to know that these answers are strictly confidential. They're not linked to you in any way. So if in the event that maybe you're not withholding payroll taxes, there's no, penalty involved here. It's not going to be mentioned in a future audit. This is just for informational purposes only, as Kirk said, to help us tailor future webinars or to provide resources after this webinar. So thanks again for your participation. That's great. We got 9 out of the 16. It looks like the majority are saying yes, they're currently withholding payroll taxes.
Well, yeah, that's what we want to see, right? All right, I guess we can move forward. Like Jamie said, 70% which is like great news. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to hear. But still, like we want to discuss to make sure like everyone is staying compliant and booking and paying their employees properly. Now, the reason we ask this question is because like a lot of cannabis operators assume like that their employees are contractors and there is like no need to withhold taxes from their paychecks. Now, that is true in some cases for accountants, outsourced accountants, lawyers, but it is not valid when it comes to in-house extractors or growers. So the following table will show you the important differences between a contractor and an employee, and it will assist you in deciding whether a new hire is a contractor or an employee. I'm just going to give two examples out of this table. For example, the company sets the work hours and controls where the work is performed and how it is done for an employee, but the contractor can set his or her own hours and can complete tasks at home or office and decide how to finish the job. After properly categorizing new hires as an employee or a contractor, which the majority of you already classified it properly, there are a few post-hire steps that cannabis operators should consider. First, they need to make sure that all new hires have their records, such as Form W4, which is the employee withholding certificate, Form I-9, which is the employment eligibility verification, job application form, all these forms properly filed and retained. Then they need to assign specific roles and responsibilities. This will help increase team efficiency, improve productivity, and boost employee morale. And finally, they need to track hours worked by each employee to identify cannabis hours versus non-cannabis hours for cost accounting purposes. Now to our third and last poll. How often your company accountant is doing generally accepted accounting principles or GAAP cost accounting? And again, please scan the QR code in order to be able to answer this question.
Hey, Kirk, a quick mention on the slide prior to the last one, where you're discussing, the importance, just one more back, where you're discussing the importance of being very clear with, the workers, whether or not they're W-2 or 1099, using these distinctions. I think this is huge. The city gets quite a bit of calls that unfortunately we can't really help with because they're more of a civil matter. It's sometimes there's an employee who was treated as an employee, but they ended up being 1099, and then there's that dispute that comes back, on the
Yes.
employer. So just to avoid that from happening, I think it's very clear to take a look at these distinctions and make it clear to people that you're bringing on board, whether or not they're W-2 and 1099s, and noting that in their contract accordingly. So thanks for mentioning that. Appreciate it.
Yes, like because like there are a lot of online resources. They specifically and very clearly tell you whether a hire is an employee or a contractor, and you don't want to misclassify a person because, like, again, for every mistake there are penalties and fines that you're going to pay. So those are like very straightforward.
Yeah.
And again, the previous poll that we saw, it already shows like everyone is like at least 70% are classifying their employees properly. So
Right.
that's perfect.
It's great to see.
All right, so moving back to our last poll.
That's great. I see we've only had 4 people respond, but could you just speak to whether or not it's more beneficial to do your GAAP cost accounting on a monthly or quarterly basis, or does it kind of depend on the size of the organization and how much is required?
Yes, so for like small size businesses, quarterly would be fine. But like large size businesses, facilities, I would say they must do it on a monthly basis. Now, the reason we have the yearly option is because like we have seen companies, they haven't done any proper cost accounting. So, and it's like the end of the year and they want to file their taxes. So we are forced to just do that cost accounting at the end of December one time. But after that, like I said, large sized companies, every month it's a must. Small sized companies, quarterly would be fine. So again, there is, and then nothing positive or negative here. We just want to see that all the operators are staying on the compliance side and like following what IRS is looking for.
Right. Now I know we've only have there's 16 participants here, but Adelanto has quite a few active operators. We're over the 60 mark now. And so those organizations vary in size. I'd say the majority though are your smaller operations. We've got the really big ones, and then we've got some of the smaller ones who I'd assume would probably fit in the quarterly section, because maybe they contract out their accounting services and they have their accountant kind of do all the reconciliations and everything all together when they're, you know, reporting to CDTFA and their excise taxes to the city. Maybe they kind of just do it all on a quarterly basis.
Yeah, like it's cost accounting is like a very time consuming process. Yeah. If it's done right, of course. That's why if you are a small size business, you can do it quarterly, but you have to make sure it's being done the right way. There, like actually there is no like the right way, but at least like following the IRS regulations.
Right. Awesome.
All right, so I guess we can move forward. Again, another positive outcome for the poll question. And this poll question is going to bring us to cannabis cost accounting. Cannabis cost accounting, IRC 280E. So I will read the exact wording of IRS when it comes to 280E. Internal Revenue Code, IRC Section 280E, denies deductions and credits for amounts paid or incurred in carrying on the trade or business of trafficking controlled substances within the meaning of Schedules 1 and 2 of the CSA in violation of federal or state law. Now, I want to take a minute and focus on the words trade or business. If any operator has set up different legal entities without any substantial monetary motive, IRS will look at all these entities as one single entity or as one single trade or business, and thus 280E will apply to all the entities. Having said that, and due to 280E, all cannabis operators face a huge tax burden because they are only permitted to deduct cost of goods sold, and that cost of goods sold must be carefully considered before claiming the deduction. Another IRC code comes into play while discussing about 280E. IRC 471 defines what you can and you cannot put into inventory costs. The point is to classify certain expenditures that qualify as inventoriable costs and then reduce the taxable income as the inventory is sold. There is a certain methodology to assign costs under cost of goods sold, and this is where a cannabis CPA can add a huge value. Keep in mind that operators will be penalized by assigning costs randomly. And to make things even more complicated, allocations under 471 apply differently for cannabis resellers versus cannabis processors. One last idea I want to discuss about cost accounting is deductible and non-deductible expenses. What is deductible and not varies for each license type, and cannabis businesses can be affected differently. For example, if a cannabis company is solely involved in growing and selling cannabis, or a cultivator, most of its expenses can be deductible. Now, common expenses that are never deductible and are not deductible are advertising, marketing, banking fees, loan interest expense, office supplies, penalties, and fines. A complementary topic of cost accounting and 280E is cannabis taxes. I always get asked, do we have to pay cultivation tax? Do we have to pay excise tax? To whom we should pay these taxes, and like when I need to pay them? Before we even start answering these questions, there are like few requirements from CDTFA, California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, that cannabis operators should meet. CDTFA requires a seller's permit if anyone is engaged in business in California and intend to sell or lease tangible personal property. You must apply for a permit if you are an individual, corporation, partnership, limited liability company, or an LLC, wholesaler, or a retailer. CDTFA also requires a cannabis tax permit if you are a distributor of cannabis and cannabis products, and you must obtain this permit in addition to your seller's permit. So basically, all the operators need the seller's permit so that they can file their sales taxes, and only the distributors should have a cannabis tax permit and a seller's permit. So they're going to use the cannabis tax permit to pay all the taxes that they collected to CDTFA. Coming back to the initial set of questions, cannabis taxes are imposed on both state level and city level. On the state level, we have cultivation tax and excise tax. Cultivation tax is on all harvested cannabis that enter the commercial cannabis market and is imposed on cultivators based on the weight and category of the cannabis. We can see in this table the different categories, the 3 categories of cannabis and the corresponding tax per dry weight ounce in the table below, which is like in front of us. And the 3 categories of cannabis are cannabis flower, cannabis leaves, and fresh cannabis plants. CDTFA further explains that entering the commercial market means when the product or the flower or the trim is packaged, tested, and has a valid COA. Now, what about excise taxes? Excise tax, 15% excise tax is imposed upon retail purchases of cannabis or cannabis products. The 15% excise tax is calculated based on the average market price, which is determined by the state, of the cannabis or cannabis products sold in a retail sale. Now, I'm going to share this diagram with you. This can be found on CDTFA's website. It shows like exactly how cannabis taxes flow through each license before the last distributor remits the collected taxes to CDTFA. We can see excise taxes always is going to come from the retailer to the last distributor, and cultivation taxes, they are always going to start from the cultivator. It can move through different licensees, or it can go straight to the last distributor. It depends how like the sales transaction occurred. But finally, once the last distributor has collected the excise tax, has collected the cultivation tax, now it's time to pay everything to CDTFA. Now that we are more familiar with state cannabis taxes, let's switch gears and talk about city cannabis taxes, specifically Adelanto City. Cannabis taxes are $1.25 per square feet for cultivators and 3% of gross receipts for all retailers, manufacturers, distributors, and non-storefront delivery licensees. Returns with payment are now required on a quarterly basis and not on a monthly basis, and failure to comply with the Adelanto Municipal Code will result in the revocation of local and state permits. The following table shows the due dates that you need to file and pay your taxes with the city. So for example, for period ending March 31, the due date to file and pay is April 30. For period ending June 30, the due date is July 31, and so on and so forth. You can visit the city's website as well for more information about taxes, permits, and compliance. Now, Jamie, because we're discussing about Adelanto City, if you have anything to add in here, please don't hesitate.
Sure. Thank you so much, Kirk. I think you've covered it very well. You're correct. We are now accepting the excise tax returns and payments on a quarterly basis. The city did that as a courtesy to kind of be in line with CDTFA returns, because before that monthly got a little chaotic for some accountants, and I'm sure a lot of you here on this webinar can attest to that. The cash flow issues that monthly return remittance presented was pretty crazy. So yes, we are on a quarterly basis. These due dates, we do stand firm by these due dates. The city is not currently waiving any late fees or penalty unless there's a significant justification for it. If these dates fall on a weekend or a non-city business day, we will accept it the following business day. For example, the city is closed on Friday, so let's say October 31st is a Friday. We wouldn't expect the payment and return to be timestamped or submitted to the city until that following Monday. Very, very important. The city has built a really, really great relationship that's steadily evolving with the Department of Cannabis Control, DCC. We meet with them on a quarterly basis. They've actually requested that it turn to monthly. And so what those meetings accomplish is coordinated efforts. And so when an operator fails to pay their excise taxes, usually the repercussion is we'll revoke the permit. When your permit's revoked, the state will also take action and revoke the license or suspend it. So I can't tell you how important it is to pay these excise taxes on time. We're getting really, really great compliance here lately, and we really appreciate your efforts. I know it's not easy. Just looking at this presentation and seeing everything that accountants and CPAs are up against in the cannabis industry, hats off to you, because it's not an easy thing to take on, but your compliance is really appreciated, and thank you for doing a great job so far in the city of Adelanto. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions on completing the tax returns, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Our finance staff, they're small, but they're mighty, and they will assist when necessary. You've all probably worked really closely with Derek over the last few years, and he's exceptional, a great resource. And if he's not available, he'll refer you to me, and vice versa. So let's see, anything else? Tax payments, we welcome them to be mailed, but as Kirk started off this webinar with the banking issues, sometimes it's not easy to just write a check, and we do have a lot of cash payment still taking place. And so if you need to pay your cannabis excise taxes by cash, please make an appointment. We send out that email address sometimes bi-weekly, just so that if you need to make an appointment, you have that information there. And yeah, again, if you have questions, we're here to help. Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you, Jamie, as well. And thank you for the Adelanto City Finance team.
They're all in a meeting. I don't think they're here now, but I'll definitely let them know that you said thanks, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it. They really do work hard.
Indeed, yes, indeed. Now, to sum everything up, we talked about bank reconciliation, cash reconciliation, other types of reconciliations, payroll, cost accounting, taxes. But now you might ask, who should we assign all these duties to? Ideally, you should make sure that the duties are segregated properly within each department. The reason you should segregate duties is not to have someone in a position where they can commit and consider fraud. There are three things that you need to segregate: the physical custody of an asset, the record keeping for it, and the authorization to acquire or dispose of the asset. And those three should be split among different individuals. For example, the person who makes the payments to vendors should not be the same person doing the bank reconciliations. As another example, you should have one person ordering goods from suppliers and you should have another person to log in the receiving goods in your accounting system. This will keep the purchasing person from diverting the goods for his or her own use. Now, while every cannabis operator focuses on production, quality, branding, distribution, and expansion, you need CPAs and compliance officers that can provide you a peace of mind. CPAs, to name a few, will provide you with solid record keeping, prepare month-end financial statements, management reports, perform proper GAAP cost accounting, and always keep you ready and prepared for any investor request, any lender request, and any future potential exit. Compliance officers, on the other hand, will conduct regular audits of the facility, investigate and resolve compliance issues, keep up with regularly changing rules, regulations, ensure understanding and implementation throughout the company. Now for our last slide, and after this webinar, if anyone has still any questions, you can reach us by sending us an email at info@420-accountingservices.com. Please don't forget the dash, or calling us at 714-750-752. You can also, like Jamie mentioned, you can also email the city for any questions you might have related to compliance, licensing. And back to 420, you can also visit our website or one of our social media pages.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Kirk. Since we're talking contact, I'm going to go ahead and put my direct email in the chat box as well. It's jlewis@ci.adelanto.ca.us. It's also plastered all over the city website on any cannabis related page. So feel free to reach out to myself or Kirk with questions related to anything discussed today, or future accounting and compliance needs. Now we'll have a period of question and answers. I do see a couple here in the chat box, so we'll start there. Let's see, can I get a copy of the present? Absolutely. We will send a copy of the presentation out via email for all who attended here. And then we'll also send a link through the email blast that we send out to this webinar, which will also be posted on the city's YouTube page. So please subscribe. We do plan to have more webinars like this on specific topic matters. If you ever have any suggested topics that you'd like us to cover, please email me and let me know. Just a heads up on one topic that will be coming up. It'll be special events in the city of Adelanto, special cannabis events. So look out for that. For anyone who's on the phone or computer, do you have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand or type it in the chat box. We'll give a few more seconds for questions.
Yes, we still have 10-15 minutes to answer any questions. If you don't have any questions now, like we said, you can email us and we will do our best to provide you with the answers.
All right, so I don't see any just yet. I'm sure some will come up later. So Kirk, be ready via email or telephone for those questions. But yeah, I'd like to thank you, Kirk, for taking the time. This was very informative. I hope that we could have more of these soon. And definitely. You know, the finance department sends their thank you. They really appreciate you doing this as well. And we will be in touch. Thank you everyone for your attendance today. We really, really appreciate you taking the time, and thanks for your continued compliance in the city of Adelanto. You're dearly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jamie, once again. Everyone have a nice day. We look forward to hearing from you.